So we have got Fireside Chat. What's the date? 9th of April. We've got a Fireside Chat without a Fireside today with Johnathan Marshall in lovely sunny Spain. How are you doing, Johnathan?
Hungover.
Wow.
I'm fine. I'm fine, but I've got big dark rings under my eyes, and I know that I've got a cup of tea because I love tea, and I got a couple of pieces of Marmite on toast. You've not got wine at this time of the day, have you?
No, I've got mine. I said, no, if I have wine at this time of the day, I'd be in trouble. I've actually got strawberry and cucumber tea.
Yeah. People are going to think that all we ever do is eat and drink because every time they say,
I know. The trouble is most people know me, that know that's a big part of my life. So I like my food and I like my drink.
Why the hell not? It's one of the nicest things in life, eating and drinking. And that's why I'm hungover, because last night we had such a great evening. Since I last spoke to you, I think actually, no, I'd met them then, but definitely since I last spoke to you, because in the last 2 weeks, all we've done is have loads and loads of fun and parties. So this big group of people that I've got to know through horses, and we've all become really great friends. The great thing that we got in common is, number one, horses. Yeah. Number two, we all play guitar and we love to sing and show off. So we've all got that in common. And we all love a drink. So there's just up the road, about 5 kilometers from here, there's this lovely, lovely guy called Luis, and he's got a rancho. He's actually from Honduras, South America, but he moved here 20 years ago. He's married a local Spanish lady. And our other friends from up the mountain, Jorge and Marion. And they're such great fun. Now, the best thing about this whole, isn't it funny how life takes away one hand and gives in another? In many ways, like all of us, I've had so much taken away from me. But, and there is a but, it's given me a whole new social life and a whole new group of friends who I would never have met had this bullshit never happened. And these people over here, Catherine, are so friendly and genuinely friendly as well. It's not like, and sometimes people socialize because it's a way of perhaps getting a business opportunity, or the person's connected and that person's connected. And so it's sort of a little bit false. Here it isn't like that at all. People don't care whether you're rich, poor, famous, not famous. They don't care. All they know and all they want to know is whether you're nice or not. And they're such lovely, warm, genuinely lovely people. This guy, Luis, I was telling you a minute ago, he's basically given us a couple of horses because he's working away on buildings and stuff. He's got loads of horses at his ranch. And we went riding with him about 2 weeks ago. And we can't get our horses here because of the bullshit, just the lockdowns. So he said, well, I've got a couple of horses that you can have if you want and ride them as long as you want. So he brought them over. Last Sunday, he rode them over on his own for about 5 miles away, dropped them in the paddock with all the tack, saddles and everything. We were up in the mountains having a walk. And when we got back, they were there waiting for us. So we've been going out. Yeah, so we've been going out riding every day on these lovely horses. We've got two. One's called Bacardi, and the other one's called Ferrari.
Oh,
and
wow.
the reason it's called Ferrari is because it's a complete and utter nutter. It's got so much energy. It would gallop all day. So that's my horse. And it's a cross between a Spanish, so it's an Andalusian, and an Arab. So it's what they call a Hispo-Arab. And it's got so much stamina, you could never tire it out. So anyway, long and short of it, we're having a beano. We're partying every night. And last night, I said, while I was sort of singing a song, and I stopped, I said, hey, I've got a great idea. I said, last Christmas, we were on our own because we didn't know anybody. I said, so this Christmas, everyone come round to our house and we'll have a big party. And I said all this in Spanish. And my friend Jorge said, well, why wait till Christmas? Let's just have a party tomorrow. So we're having another one today.
Fantastic. And the horses and things and that sort of generosity. I mean, what you were saying is you met them all through the horses, and animals are such a great way of connecting people, because whether you're into cats, dogs, sheep, horses or whatever, that's quite a core value that will bring people together at a deep level. Now, of course, there's loads of different types of horsey people. There's loads of different types of doggy people. I have to be careful how I say that. But animals are such a great connector, and I love it where I live. I live in the middle of the woods. It's beautiful because we're only an hour outside London, but it's so much open countryside here. And unlike other areas of a lot of other places in the UK, there's access to all the countryside. So it's not all privately owned and everything. So you can choose to either go sort of up to where the car parks are and meet a lot of people, or you can choose to take yourself on a route where they don't know about and you don't meet anyone. But it's so funny when people meet, the first things I always talk about is the dogs. You don't even, half time, I'm not even looking at the person's face. But so everyone knows each other's dogs far better than they know each other. It's quite funny. And say horses, you know, I'm the mad horsewoman because around here, most people have got posh dressage horses, and I'm normally riding bareback, leading a Shetland along on my New Forest pony. So it's quite distinctive. There's a couple of my friends and I that have got ponies, and everyone else has got posh dressage horses. So it's interesting.
Well, it doesn't really matter as long as you love it, and as long as you're having a lot of, you know, all that sort of horse snobbery. I grew out of that years ago. When it became my living, you know, doing shows, I just thought, I don't care if it's well bred, whether it's got papers, whether it doesn't matter. As long as it's in here, it's a beautiful, it's what we call noble over here, nobly. As long as it's got a good temperament and you can trust it, it doesn't matter whether it's cost £1 million or it was given to you. The important thing is what's between its ears. And so I'm not really into all this sort of, oh, it was tired by so-and-so and it's got papers as long as your arm. That's for snobs and people who believe all the
relevant, isn't it? It's all like this. I mean, the animals don't look at us. Well, perhaps they do. I'll ask them in a minute. You know, but they're not sitting there and looking at our pedigree. Although we do have a joke in my family because my mum is really into dogs and she used to breed Labradors just to keep her line going. A really lovely mix of show and working labs. And we always laugh because when you're breeding something like Labradors, there's so many health checks you need to get done. And one of the main things is their hips. But my twin sister, my mother, me, my dad, we've all got really dodgy hips. So we all said if we were Labradors, we wouldn't have been allowed to breed. We'd never have passed the test, which is quite amusing and actually very true. Animals don't judge you, do you? That's just like you were saying about your new friends. All they care about is, are you a nice person or not? They don't care whether you've got new furniture. They don't care whether you've done the housework or not. They don't care how much money you're earning. They just want to know, are you a nice person and are you going to be consistent with them?
Absolutely right. And, you know, in some ways, I'm having to get out the programming that our culture is sort of, you know, pushed us all to believe, because I'm an extremely tidy person, ridiculous, actually, almost obsessive. And it comes from my mum, because my mum was very much like that. She has everything immaculate. So, and also having been a sort of single man until I was in my 50s, I was used to everything like exactly in its right place, OCD. Anyway, but now we're here and they honestly don't care. They got chickens walking in. In fact, 3 nights ago, when we were at Jorge's house, we're there having a cup of coffee and a blooming sheep walked in, which I'll tell you, actually, we've got 4 baby lambs. I'll show you in a minute.
I saw them on your video. I'm so jealous because my dream is to have like my own sort of Noah's Ark. A little herd of everything, not just 2, because most animals want to be in a herd of more than 2. But that's my absolute dream. I'm working on it. I'm gradually, you know, it's amazing how many animals I need to sneak in without my husband noticing. But yeah, those lambs are just gorgeous.
They are. They're really, really lovely. Well, these lambs we bought basically because one of our paddocks is growing like mad and it's too steep for the horses. So we thought we'll get some. First, I was going to get goats, but then they said, oh no, goats will get out and they'll eat everything, because I've got a beautiful garden as well. He said, get lambs. So we got these lambs, 1 black one and 3 white ones. They're really cute. I'll show you in a bit. We'll go for a little walk. But the reason we got that idea is these friends of mine, Jorge and Marion, they've got a really tame lamb. It's called Marcella, okay? And it was bottle fed, and then the owners were going to eat it. And these friends of mine said, oh, you can't eat it, we'll have it. So they've got it but it follows you around and it's dead friendly. So we're there in the kitchen chatting away. The bloody lamb walked in. Now I would have gone, oh, but they didn't bat an eyelid. They weren't in the least bit bothered. And these people aren't like country bumpkin thickos. They were originally from Madrid. So they're intelligent, they're educated, they've had a life before this. But what we've got in common, is we know that all the COVID crap is a conspiracy. We know it, and they're exactly on the same page as me. But they sort of had a bit like I did last year. They had this reevaluation, is that the right word, where they just go, what is actually important now? What do I want? And just like us, they've come here to be off-grid, self-sufficient, eat their own food, so they're not getting all the crap inside them, and they know that. And they want to be, they want to live in their own little world, surrounded by all their animal family, which is exactly the same as us. Because I don't know if you saw the other night, there was a brilliant grand designs program, and it was this lovely guy whose name I've forgotten, but there is a point to this. He bought a wood. This was 15 years ago. He bought this amazing hazel wood, and he harvested all the trees, and he built the most beautiful, excuse me, that's my stomach rumbling, this most beautiful log house. It was fantastic. He made it just himself with a couple of friends, with his own two hands. And at the end of the program, you know, when Kevin MacLeod does that little chatty bit, you know, he says, well, it's been ups and downs and blah, blah, blah. But these people, he was doing all that stuff. But you could see he wasn't saying it just for the telly. He genuinely loved this place. Yeah. And what the guy said, this really amazing fellow who built his own house, he actually, this was about 10 years ago, when he said this, he said, I can foresee in the future, people are going to have to go back to a more sustainable lifestyle where they can look after themselves, live off the land, and live a lot more in harmony, because it was almost prophetic the way he said it. I thought, crikey, there was never more true words said than that, because where we are now, all of us, you know, I feel as though those of us like you and me and many of your, you know, listeners and followers, we know that this is not going to change anytime soon. It's up to us to make the change. And the lifestyle that we've adopted, and our friends up the mountain and this guy on the telly, is exactly the way forward, to value what you've got, to not depend on Big Brother and society, not depend on all that, and to make your own way in the world. And I think that people who do that are going to be okay. People who don't will be caught by the short and curlies. And it's basically exactly what that fella said. It was if you haven't watched it, Grand Designs. Yeah, in fact, I'm so keen for you to watch it, and the viewers as well. I'll just grab the guy's name because it's on my laptop. Just give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I thought he was called Ben Law, this guy. Yeah. Ben, L-A-W, Law. And he was a really nice, humble, quiet sort of, but he had a lot going on upstairs, because you could really see, I mean, they started filming it in 2006, so it's 14 years ago, but he could see what was happening, this chap. And I just thought, blooming heck, he'd be a really great person for you to have a talk to, because he knew this was happening, like many of us did. I mean, I knew this was going to happen about 5 years ago. I just didn't know when.
Exactly. But, and also, you know, did you think, Johnathan, that we could see it was happening, but you didn't know exactly when or how, but the signs were on the line for so many things. So many of my more spiritual friends, that I would say, so the type of people that I've met through doing my more wacky animal communication work and everything, it's amazing, because if you're open and accepting to those sort of things, you tend to also be open and accepting to a lot of other, you know, sort of new ideas, and not shut them down. You know, one of my new best friends, Janine Morio from Tarot by Janine, she's a tarot card reader, and she is, I don't know if you've seen her work, but she is absolutely amazing. And, you know, all these are sort of old practices have been coming back into the fore. And I just wanted to show you, I've been reading, I meant to have the actual book, I've got the book, there's this brilliant book here, guys, called Braiding Sweetgrass. Okay. And it's by a Native American, Robin Wall Kimmerer. And she's a Native American, but she's also a biologist and a botanist. And it is the most beautiful, beautiful book. And it's exactly about what you were just speaking about. It's about really realizing the beauty of connecting in, and the gratitude for every seed you're planting and everything you're eating. Because when you look at the Native Americans, for example, or any indigenous tribe, they only take what they need. Nothing is wasted. So I'm just on the chapter at the moment about how they're using black beech to make baskets, and it's such a complex skill to do this beautifully, and also to make sure that you're not wasting anything, so no part of the tree is wasted, because that would be very disrespectful to the tree and to nature. But it's a really beautiful book. I sort of shared it with a lot of my friends, and there's something in it for everyone, because it's really positive. And she brought her children up. She was a single mum, and she brought her children up to really understand how to grow their own fruit and vegetables, how to bake traditional things, how to have gratitude for everything. And, you know, now they're really reaping the benefits of that, because it's a very different relationship, isn't it? You know, yes, of course, there's
what I think it is, Catherine. I think it's living with a conscience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That, and my dad said to me, very quickly, me and my dad were like that. We didn't get each other in life. We didn't get each other because we're totally different. But he did say one thing to me, and it was probably the best thing anyone ever said. And I'm really grateful for my dad. He said to me, Johnathan, use the word conscience. Take out all the other things, God or religion, whatever. He says, and put in the word conscience, and it all makes sense. And my dad wasn't what you would call a sort of open book. He was quite deep. He never shared his feeling. But what I've thought about many, many times since, and he was absolutely right, because your conscience is your moral guide. It tells you whether things are right or wrong. Yeah. You know, if you've done something wrong, I could tell you a complete lie now, and everyone else, and they might all believe it, but I know I've lied. And so it doesn't matter if you believe, because I know when I get in bed tonight, I've lied. And your conscience is that it pricks me. It does for me anyway, certainly as I've got older. When I was younger, I didn't really care, because when you're young, you don't. I certainly didn't. I was way too egotistical. But as I got older, I've realized actually that having a good moral conscience is the main thing. And living with a conscience, in other words, you know, like you just said, if you're going to eat animals, and it's not everyone's thing, I personally like meat, but at least if you can do it with a conscience and make sure what you do, it's been treated fairly, if something's been looked after. And like, you know, you said the North American Indians, they would take one bison from a herd, and they would and they would all sort of like give thanks to its soul in a way, wouldn't they?
Very much so. It's a huge part of what they do.
Yeah. We just in our society, everything's too readily available. The box is ripped open, it's there, and then it's discarded. I hate that. It's so wasteful.
Well, someone sent me a really lovely little meme this week, and I just thought it just absolutely hit home for me. I've been very, very reflective this week, probably because I've taken a lot of time out of not watching what's been going on or listening to anything, and spent a lot of time with my animals in between my work, and actually listening to the braiding sweetgrass. And it's really just hit home about everything that I believe. But this meme was brilliant. It says that humans are the only species that cut down trees to make paper to write about saving the forests.
Yeah.
And I just thought it's exactly true. And when you look, you know, a lot of people have got good intentions, but they only go so far, because this what's really hit home for me more than anything over this period is this absolute non-allowance of questioning. And people have always seen it of me of being argumentative, but it's not argumentative at all. When I'm asking a question, it's an open question. I genuinely want to hear different sides of the stories. And if you
that's great that you brought that up. That's great that you brought that up, actually, because do you remember the other day we had a little private chat about? Okay, well, maybe we can touch on that.
I think it's important for everyone.
Well, I'm glad you agree with that, because what I was about to say is about asking questions is, okay, at the risk of upsetting people, at the moment, there's lots and lots of people who are trying, I'm sure, with the best of intentions to do good work to wake people up, because that's the important thing, getting everybody to realise. And by the way, I'd seen in the last week an enormous shift in people's awareness of what's going on, mainly because of this AstraZeneca jab, you know. I think people are going, hang on a minute. They're putting the brakes on big time. But while everybody who is doing this fantastic work of sharing the truth, or what they call the truth community, which I hate that expression, because you know, but anyway, the people who are involved in this truth community, really what we should be doing now is having people on and talking to people who don't agree with us, because it's very, very easy to just surround yourself with people who all think the same, and they're like, oh yeah, he's right, oh yeah, he's right, totally, yeah, I agree. But all you're doing is you're basically showing one side of the discussion. It's going to be much better, I think, for people. I'm talking about people who are very high profile and have got millions of followers.
Yeah.
Rather than having people on who just agree with them, let's have somebody on who strongly disagrees, who can actually argue the opposite view really well, really articulately, because then that will challenge the people who, because at the moment, I feel as though, you know, this is true, there is two absolute different ends of the spectrum. There's the non-believers who are the ones who are going along with the whole narrative, and then there's people like you and me and many, many others who can see it's all crap.
Yeah.
And there's like a massive divide. And at the moment, they're not merging because they're all agreeing with it with themselves, and these lot are all agreeing with themselves. What we need to do is sort of do a bit of cross-fertilization. Even if it creates discord, it's better for people to challenge the discussion in a respectful way. So the people who don't agree, or the people who do agree, can go, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But while everybody's sort of like backing each other up and just going along with, oh, you're right, we're not kind of moving forward very much. We are, but not as fast as we would be if we were having opposite views discussed online between, you know, really high profile people. I'll pick somebody out the air. Let's say Charlie Ward, who's a great friend of yours and mine, and he's got millions of views. I haven't seen anyone, and I've watched all these videos, I haven't seen anyone get on Charlie's show and really challenge him and really give a very, very strong argument for the reverse of what he's saying.
Well,
and I really hope someone will.
He's open to that, but no one will come on. It's like Dr. Coleman keeps saying. So the only people Charlie's had on that are different are people who are personally slating Charlie and trying to prove he's a fraud and a pervert, which is not what we're talking about at all. But it's really interesting. So anyone can get an interview with someone like Charlie or Nicholas Van Mierman or whatever. They're open to speaking to anyone. And even a lot of the doctors, I've heard a lot of the doctors playing. So Vernon Coleman's been saying for years, Dr. Vernon Coleman,
great,
let me debate. I'm desperate to debate something like this. But what's so interesting, Johnathan, is the other people won't debate it. So I've had this in my own personal life. Now, my mother, bless her, is bloody brilliant because she's no fool at all. And she will actually question and really challenge a lot of what I'm saying, which is really, really good. And so will my son. And it's brilliant because some I can answer, some I can't, some I go away and research, etc. But my sisters won't even have a discussion with me. It just will not have a discussion. And loads of my so-called friends. Now, this is an interesting one because there's a lot of us are saying that a lot of people are saying from both sides of this great chasm of you're over that side or that side and never do you meet in the middle. A lot of people are now saying, I can't be friends with those people at the moment on both sides. Lots of people that don't want to be friends with me anymore and lots of people that I don't. And that's probably the wrong way of expressing it because it's not that I don't want to be friends with them. It's just that I'm very conscious now, more than ever, probably for lots of reasons. I lost my father last year. And I think I've lost 4 of my rescue animals over the last year. And when you lose anyone really precious in your life, it really makes you evaluate everything about it. And I think for me now, I'm very much conscious of where I put my energy. And what battles, you sort of step into and everything. But I agree with you. There's nowhere near enough challenging. There's a lot of sort of Chinese whispers on both sides where someone will... The good thing about social media is if we didn't have social media, if we didn't have Zoom, we couldn't have these discussions. There's lots of good things about technology. But and actually, none of us would be able to share or learn anything if we didn't have these alternative media sources, however censored they are. But the bad side is so many people, it's so easy to click a button and forward it without any thought, any checks, anything. So I've seen loads of stuff and I hate the truther community because I don't believe there is such a thing as a truth. We've all got our own realities and there's every shade of grey in between the two of them. you know, what's a bad person, what's a good person. You and I will have done lots of things and behaved very differently in our youth to what we are now, because that's the whole point. You go through journeys and you learn as you go along, and a lot of us learn from our mistakes more than we do from the things we've done right.
Well, you do, for sure. That's why you have mistakes, to learn from them, don't you?
Exactly. But this lack of allowing any questioning or discussion. And also, I saw right at the start of this a brilliant debate. Now, I can't remember the guy's name. It was one of the really judges who was saying about how you could legally bring in forced vaccination and everything. And it was with Robert Kennedy Jr. I don't know if you saw the discussion.
No.
And they were on completely different sides of the argument. You know, everyone was saying this judge was completely deep state, and you've got Robert Kennedy Jr. But the discussion was just so beautifully conducted. And both of them are incredibly passionate about their point of view, but they were able to hold a very respectful discussion. And you could see they were genuinely both listening to each other. And I'll have to try and find it again, because it was so good. It will come to me as soon as we stop talking. The guy's name will come to me. But it was a real example of having the respect to listen to the other side of you, and realize, you know, both sides of them came away and said, we've really learned something from this discussion.
That's what it should be. And just, you know, while we're on this sort of subject, because there's a lot, I think discord is the right word. There's a lot of discord between so many people. Now, I've got my family, we've always been like the Waltons. I'm one of 5 kids, and we were always like thick as thieves. But at the moment, everybody is all spread around. My sister's in Switzerland, brothers up in Liverpool, and others in Cornwall. And because of this discussion and the fact that we can't actually go and see each other, and you know, I've got a very strong opinion which is similar to yours, and one of my other brothers is the exact opposite. So now they've cut me off, just like you were saying. They don't want to even have the discussion. Then they go, I haven't got time for this bullshit. You're full of rubbish. I'm not listening. Boom. And they block me. Okay. Now, these are my brothers who I've known since I was a little lad. I'm 50 now. So I've known them half a century. And I love them. I don't want to be a stranger to my own flesh and blood. And at the end of it all, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong is irrelevant. All I care about is that they're safe and they're happy. And I want to have a relationship with all of my friends and my family who I love dearly. But there is this, as you quite rightly said, there's this tendency for people to go, I can't cope with this, and they cut ties with you, severed. Now, one of them, I haven't spoken to for over a year, okay? He could die tomorrow, I could die tomorrow, and we'll have wasted a whole year of not talking. Over what? It's bloody nonsense, you know, nonsense. So in some ways, I get the reason why people don't speak up, because they go, well, I don't want to upset so-and-so, so I'll just say nothing. But at the same time, if everyone does that, we're not going to kind of get out of this mess that we're in. And we can all agree, whatever side of the argument you are, we can all agree that the way things are now is completely insanity. We can't live our lives like this. People are depressed. They can't see anyone. They can't go anywhere. They can't plan. They've lost all their sense of self-worth. I know I have. I mean, if I was living here and I've got a new, thank God, we've got this new project. I'm, you know, living on the farm and everything's great. But my old life, the real Johnathan Marshall, the showman, who was going off to shows every week, seeing thousands of people, I've lost him completely. I'm a totally different person now. Fortunate, but you imagine if you were like that and you were just kicking around in a house in Liverpool somewhere with no work and no money and no hope. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. And all of that for a blooming a bug which is no worse than the flu. And they've come out and said it now. Even Whitty said it.
Whitty said it. Even Chris Whitty said it. It's quite unbelievable how exciting. My delivering bands just delivered huge 25 kilogram sacks of my herbs for my horses and animals. No, it is. And you know, there's so many people that are. So a lot of my son's friends, they've been off on furlough. They're 21 years old. They've been off on furlough for virtually a year now.
Yeah.
I mean, their self-confidence and morale. No one, you know, you've got all these young people, all people, but you know, just talk about that. They can't meet a boyfriend or girlfriend. They can't, you know, do things. Their whole life, it's just so ridiculous. And as you said, on both sides of the story, it's ludicrous. But what I find really interesting, I mean, I was listening to Alex Belfield this morning, who I think is hysterical, but there's some bits of it that I post. So whether I like it or not, however rebellious I am, I cannot get on a plane and go and see my daughter in America at the moment, because I won't be allowed into the country because they're not letting travel visas in. But most other things I can do. I can get out and about. I can meet my friends. If I still had my herb business, I absolutely would be open. I wouldn't have shut at all. I can tell you that. I've still been working throughout and seeing clients throughout. I could, I'd walk into a shop out of ask if I would go to pubs, and I certainly wouldn't contract and track and trace. So there's so much of these restrictions where we'll be saying our lives are on hold that are self-imposed. And how many times do we hear this about so much of our lives where we think there's a certain problem or something's not solvable? So many of those boundaries as an individual we've actually put in place ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. And but they've been put in there because lots and lots of people will go along with it because they don't want to make a fuss. They don't want to cause a fuss. And I get that. Not everybody's like you, and I'm confident. You're an outspoken person. So it's obvious that we're going to go, I'm not bloody doing this. Yeah. But the longer the people who go, I don't want to rock the boat, I don't want to upset anyone, then the longer it's all going to carry on for everybody. Exactly. That's the problem. That is the problem, isn't it? It's so frustrating. I mean, I have good days and bad days, and I know you do. We had this discussion privately. On the good days, I'm fine. Today's going to be a nice day. Great. The bad days, do you know what? Quite honestly, I'm full of anger. I'm full of rage. I want to go and punch somebody. I'm bloody furious. Not just for me, but for everybody else. My children, my kids in England. My son is at film school. He can't go and do his, he can't go and carry on with his course properly like he should be doing. My other son can't go and see his mates. And my mum on her own, 78-year-old lady, and she should be, in the last chapter of your life is the time you should think, well, cracky, I've hardly got any time left. I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to throw
whatever I want to do. It's the one time in your life for hopefully a lot of people. They've worked hard, they've done everything, raising their families, doing whatever they've done job-wise and everything, and they deserve to actually bloody well enjoy themselves. And they're not. My mum's the same. She's lost her husband. She's on her own. Luckily, she's got lots of dogs. The weather's been shit in the UK all winter, really has been. So that's tough. We all know how much the weather affects our Brits. But actually, it's really hard work if it's pouring down with rain and you've got 6 dogs, sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. I go through with you. It's really fascinating about these waves and everything. And I know when we had this discussion, going back to what you were talking about how people can get the message across better. This is what I've been giving a lot of thought about, because I think half the time when I'm angry, I'm actually angry at myself because I'm not able to articulate it in a way that's making a difference for a lot of these people. And it's sort of, in one respect, it's good because it's challenging me to look at things in a different way and how I do communicate. And in another way, it's so frustrating because I've had lots of friends who said, well, I can't listen to these videos you send me because everyone's so angry and passionate in this. And I'm saying, yeah, because literally it is life and death they're talking about.
That's the thing, it is. And so it's not an exaggeration, it is life and death.
What coloured sofa you're going to get. We're talking about stopping people potentially making a decision that will affect them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and also because, like you, I've looked into it. I now believe that we are in for, and I hate to be a doom merchant, but come next winter, the autumn, and people are going to be literally dropping like flies because of these vaccines. We know this now. I've read enough stuff. I've looked at enough videos and lectures and listened to enough experts to know that what they're setting us all up for now is not the summer, it's for next winter. And people's autoimmune systems are going to turn on themselves, and there's going to be thousands of, and then of course the most frustrating thing is they're going to go, oh, it's another variant, it's another variant.
You can see it coming a mile away, and let's stop it.
It's so obvious. Yeah,
I do think I don't know whether this is just wishful thinking or whether it's that, but it's a fine line. So when I'm feeling really passionate about this, and as we know, sort of physiologically, sort of passion, excitement, anger give off a lot of the same biological reactions. So, but when I'm feeling really calm and I've been for a lovely walk with my horses or dogs, or, you know, I've seen some lovely wildlife and I'm in that really calm space and not triggered by all of this, when I tune in deep down, I think we're going to be all right. I think there are
I
a
do.
lot
I
of,
think,
yeah.
I think the long-term picture, the sort of looking down the line quite a way, I think ultimately it's got, this is the way I would describe it, Catherine, because, you know, I've been criticised in the past for saying, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
People say, well, how do you know? You're not some sort of, I mean, prophet. The reason I know what's going to happen is because it cannot be any other way. If you've got a ball and you throw it in the air, you know it's got to come down. It can't stay up there forever. It has to come down. And in this situation, the ball is the truth. The truth and reality has been thrown in the air at the moment, and it's and everyone's going, oh Christ, what's happening? It has got to come down.
Yeah.
And we know that there's enough people now saying no to the vaccines. There's enough people now, and we're only in April, so we're just over a year into it. Now, a year ago, when I was saying this online, everybody was jumping on me and criticizing, oh, you. Now they're all agreeing with me because what I was saying then hadn't happened yet. But it has happened now. Literally everything I said a year ago has happened. And it's not because I'm clever. It's just because I'd researched into it like you have for years and years. And I knew it was a plan and I knew it was going to happen. So it's nothing to do with me being clever. It's just that I'd read about it and I was aware of it and I could see it. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. Exactly. So now I'm thinking, okay, in the long term, and it might be another year, I don't know how long. None of us know how long. It all depends how quick people get it and wake up, and they're waking up in droves every day. I mean,
they really are.
They are.
I feel quite shiver. You know, I've got tingles when you're saying that because I have seen. You know, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't seeing it. I was sort of probably at my wit's end because everyone I knew was taking their jab.
Yeah.
And it was just. It's not. People say to me, "But it's nothing to do with you. It's they're adults, informed consents." And we've had this before. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with informed consent. You might choose to eat meat. I might not. I might choose to drink wine. Someone else thinks wine's evil, sort of thing. It is informed consent. But the difference is it's not informed consent. And I have literally been getting hundreds of emails a week from people saying, oh my God, I really regret it, or this is what's happened to the thing. So there's some really lovely channelers that are saying that the jab is not as evil as we think, and it's not going to come to that. And I hope to God it's right. But my real worry, again, how I put my moral compass and I know whether I'm right, it's just like you saying, train the ball up in the air. So this whole year, I personally do not know a single person that's died of COVID.
No, I don't.
Not even a single person. So even though when my dad was critically ill for 6 months and I was taken back to hospital and in the hospice and everything, I still didn't know anyone who's died of COVID. If anyone was going to get COVID, it was going to be him, you know, and all the stress around that. But I lost track, seriously, Johnathan, of the amount of people either I know personally or that are literally husbands, wives, fathers of people I know personally who have had horrendous reactions to the jab. So one of my mother's friends who had a terminal illness, this is a really interesting moral compass because, you know, sometimes the conscience, the global conscience does things in mysterious ways. So this poor lady's got an awful terminal disease. But she was then given the Oxford jab and had a major blood clot and has been unconscious since and is now in end of life care and won't recover. Now, when I heard that, my view, and I'm not saying I'm right, I was like, this is bloody disgusting because this woman wasn't given any informed consent. She was just given it.
Yeah.
But I said that to someone else and their reaction was, well, that's absolutely fantastic because the end she had with this disease she had was so horrific. Yeah, this has put her out of the misery. But who is to play God in this situation, you know? And that's one example, and that's a very interesting debate. But there's so many people. I mean, one of my really good friends in London messaged me last night. She was helping with her neighbour. Her neighbour's not very old, probably about our age. and they just had their second Pfizer jab, and they completely collapsed, just in a horrendous state, blood coming out in the urine, coughing up blood. Horrendous, Jonathan. Now, she knows this neighbour, she's known them for ages, and this is completely out of the blue. So she was helping, because she lives in a block of flats, helping the ambulance in. And the ambulance men were saying, we need to know which jab have you had, and was it the first or second? Now, why are the ambulance men asking that?
Yeah, exactly.
The jab. So you know, my gut feel is that there are some nefarious ones out there, but I've gone off track a bit. But it's mainly because my dad once said to me, you know, he was on a train and he had a full cup of coffee on his train going to work in his nice smart business suit, and the train went over a bump, and the coffee, hot coffee, boiling hot coffee, spilled all over his lap. And the woman opposite said to him, I could see that was going to happen. And he said, well, I wish you'd told me beforehand. What's the point of telling me afterwards? She said, if you'd have told me beforehand, I could have moved it. And this is what I see here now. It's like, you know,
exactly.
We have a duty of care to say, now people don't have a duty of care to listen. That is the informed choice. But I wouldn't forgive myself, because this isn't having hot coffee spilt on your lap. This is potentially, if what we think is right, life and death, or stopping you breeding, or whatever, making decisions that are life-changing decisions. So I'm not going to stop talking out about it. And it's
neither. It's your moral duty. It's our moral duty. If someone's house is on fire, you'd tell them, this is your house. This is your house on fire. And this is what I've tried to say to people who are trying to say, oh, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying it because I care, because I love you, because I can see what's going to happen. You're going to burn your balls in a hot coffee, but worse. And it's so frustrating. But hey, listen, what we should do in a sec, because I don't know how long we've got. Let's go and have a look at the little lambs. I'll show you the lambs. I'll show you the horses. Yeah. Because I think it would be nice, first of all, because it gets away from all the frustration and whatever, and the upsetting discussion that we were just talking about. But listen, Catherine, and all the viewers who watch this, we are on the right track. We are on the right track, and we just have to stay strong. We've got to keep going with this. I will never, to my dying breath, I will never stop telling people the truth, because I won't be bullied like you, and I know that this is far more important than to sit back and go, well, it's not my responsibility. Yeah, because in the future, in our lifetime, you and me, we are going to see this coming out into reality, and it's going to be awful for many, many people. And I want to try and limit that as much as I can. Yeah. And also, we're going to say, you carry on walking whilst we go and see your lambs. But lambs is exactly what we're saying. You know, at the end of the day, life is a cycle. You've got the new lambs coming through, and we've got loads around us. And you cannot look at a lamb and not be happy. I don't think just like I can't not look at my guinea pigs and be happy. I don't care what's happened in my world. The moment I go and see my guinea pigs, everything's all right again. So these lambs are exactly what we need to focus on. Everyone can get something in their life that they can focus on that's really positive. I'm just grabbing this dongle because this is my Wi-Fi connection. Oh, yeah. So I'll put it in my pocket. Yeah, be careful what dongle it's not that sort of channel. Yeah, don't worry, that's not that impressive. Hey, anyway, so look at the lovely morning. Look at the beautiful light we've got here coming up over the mountain. I don't know whether it'll come through on the screen, but this is our gaff here, and that's where I sit and have me coffee or me fireside chats when we do it. So right here, this is our lovely all these here, the lambs going underneath. This is all kiwi fruits, and that's an orchard down there. So I've got loads and loads of fruit. So I'll just bring you down the lane, and I'll show you the lovely lambs. I did tell you I was going to stay, didn't I? Oh, you can come, when all this bullshit's over. I'm come over myself. Come and have a trip. Come and have a holiday. Right, so the lambs hopefully haven't been eaten. That's the problem. We've got wolves here. I think I told you, didn't I? Don't even say that. Don't even put that out there. No, there is. Where the hell are the lambs? Oh, hang on a minute. Do your call for them again. Bar to them. They've stopped calling back now. Oh, back. Yeah, because what happened, the day they were calling to me like crazy. There's something white behind you. You've gone now.
He's gone now, everyone. Look, he's gone over too deep into the woods. Even the Wi-Fi can't cope with that.
Go back up the hill.
Yeah, you disappeared. The Wi-Fi went then.
Did it?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi went. You disappeared then because it froze.
Oh. Right, let me come back up the hill then. Sorry about that.
You are going to have to make sure you send us all a message and let us know the lambs are okay now, because we're all worried.
Yeah, no, well, they're probably in the barn. Now, the funny thing is, because the sheep...
Have you got?
How many what, sorry?
How many acres have you got?
I'll have to climb over that fence too. No, we've got about 25.
Wow. Oh my God. That's so amazing. You keep going, Johnathan.
Hello. Yeah, the lovely lambs.
We've lost him again, but it's worth it if we
cut out.
Yeah, you keep cutting out, but it's worth it if we get to see the lamb.
Am I back now?
You're back now, but
there they are. Can you see?
Oh, babies, look at them. Have they got names yet, Johnathan?
Well, I was just about to tell you that, because obviously with them being sheep, the naughty part of me was thinking, well, I know a few bloody sheep.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to name them, but I won't say it because otherwise it's not fair. But I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So anyway, I've called, one of them's called Boona, Lamb Boona. The other one's called Sean. Now, what did we decide? I can't remember the names. Larry. And one of them's a female. The little black one, he's a female. I can't think what we were going to call it. I've forgotten the names of the third one. But anyway, Boone is the one I like best because it reminded me of that advert. Remember when Peter Kay used to say, Lamb Boone is here? It used to make me laugh. Anyway, I'll just go in. I don't want to scare them, and I don't want the internet to cut out. All right. Don't worry, I won't scare you. Yeah. They're wondering why I'm walking in with the thing in my hand, but you can see him anyway.
They're just adorable. Absolutely adorable.
Yeah, they're a bit suspicious because I'm walking in with this thing in my hand. They don't know what I'm doing, so I won't spook them anymore.
I think they're a bit suspicious because you've called one of them Boo now. I think you should change that. I think that's yeah, energetically, I think you should change that. I'm putting in an official.
You're right. I don't really call it Boona. It was just a joke.
Yeah, we'll let you off. Have you got chickens as well?
Well, the chickens haven't actually arrived yet. We were supposed to get them a week or so ago, but they're coming on Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Oh,
are you still there?
Yeah, we're still there.
Internet done?
Yeah, no.
Do you want to see the horses? Do you want to see the horses?
Yeah, let's see the horses. So
they normally come cantering over, so I got an apple for them, or as we call them in Spain, a manzana.
They're quite laid back about being separated from the rest of their herd.
Yeah, they're fine. Okay. Caballos. Vamos. Manzana para ti.
Oh, look at that lovely field. This is how horses should be kept.
Hang on a minute. It's typical, isn't it? They normally come running over like all excited. Come on, I got an apple for you. You have to speak to them in Spanish. That's the problem.
Exactly. But that's a beautiful field they've got. So can they get into the woods there, Johnathan?
Yeah, it's great because, you know, it's bloody hot. I got sunstroke on Monday. It gets really, really hot. But because we're surrounded by all these pine forests and stuff, and their field goes into the pine forest, it means that they get, they're coming now. Come on, boys. Yeah, they can get out of the sun. And also the flies, you know, because it's bloody hate flies, don't you?
I do. So yeah, pesky.
If you go into the tree, the flies aren't so bad.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about the horses is obviously the wolves then don't bother them.
No. There are wild horses up on the mountain at the top, and they're only small. They're a bit like Dartmoor ponies, and the wolves do kill them. But because we're down the valley a bit, come on, I've got an apple for you. Because we're down the valley a bit, the wolves don't tend to come down this far. or if they do, they literally sneak in and grab something easy.
Yeah.
So this one's Bacardi.
Which one's that?
That one's Bacardi, who looks like a pony. And this one here, this is Ferrari. You can see this.
Oh, I can see that's Ferrari, all right. You a cheeky monkey, Ferrari. Yeah.
But they're lovely. They're really lovely horses. I mean, they're not mine, but like I say, my friend just said, well, if you can't ride your own horses at the moment, he says, I'm not using these two. He says, so have them for as long as you like.
Oh,
so he brought them over.
That is a good friend. That's my type of friend. How beautiful.
Oh, swinging your bum round. So yeah, we're on a bit of a hill here. So as you can see, let me get out the way because I don't want to get my feet trodden on. Anyway, so we got those two.
Feel for them. Yeah, that's so lovely. Yeah.
Well, we've got about 4 fields. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we've got 4 fields. And then up at the top where the stables are, we've got a nice big sand school up there and a round pen. So, because I love to do all the liberty stuff, you know, get them to bow and stuff, but without using any ropes or anything. So I got this lovely
livery. I was really lucky enough to get my Romeo whirled off the New Forest. So I started him using all the natural horsemanship, and he's amazing. He follows me everywhere. And do you remember a game, Grandma's Footsteps, as a child? So when you walk ahead and then you look round and you've got to catch them moving. Well, I play that every night. When I go out about 11 o'clock at night to check my 3 ponies, we've got this game and they all come and follow me. And then I turn around and they stop. And it is literally hysterical. They do it. They've just, they'll follow me everywhere. So quite often when I'm out walking with them all, I can let one of them off. But Romeo's a bit naughty. If I talk on the phone, he'll bugger off because he thinks I'm being rude. Well, that's so lovely. So I think, you know, for me, that would be one of my messages to everyone. Not everyone's lucky enough to go and get their own lambs, but I'm sure you can go and find somewhere in the UK, all the lambs are being born in wherever you are in the world. You'll be able to go and find somewhere, go and look at some lovely young baby animals being born. And it just gives you that real hope about the circle of life. And even though in our human world, things are pretty awful, things in the animal world are carrying on as normal.
Nothing's changed in the animal world. That's the thing, isn't it? And, you know, all the we've got bees as well. I forgot to say about that. And the bees are all buzzing around and getting on with being busy, you know, what they do. And they're not in the slightest bit worried. They don't care less because to them, nothing's changed. It only really has changed for everybody when you turn on the bloody idiot box in your front room, the television.
And that is the crux of it all. It really is. Yeah. So, you know, if we didn't have televisions, we'd all be fine, actually.
We would. We would
really
be better off.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I can't stand TV. It just makes me angry. We watch movies, you know, in the evening, stick a nice Netflix or something like that. But television is just constant bad news and programming, and I hate it. I've got no time for it.
Completely. So, anything else that you want to cover before we head off, go and do all our animals for the day?
Let me just put a bit of sellotape on my phone because I don't want to drop you again. The phone flip. I sellotape you to my little tripod, you see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I think that. There you go. Yeah, I mean, there's a million things, but I'd want to try and end really on a positive. I think let's just finish by saying that there is absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure you agree, that things are changing really quite quickly. Suddenly, it's starting to go. And recently, you know, I'm getting more and more positive messages from people who are starting to get it. And I reckon, let's say between now and the next time we talk, let's say we do it again in another 2 weeks' time. Yeah. I reckon something big's going to have happened between now and then. Maybe not one single event. I mean, there's loads of things. Do you remember the boat in the Suez Canal? Yeah. I mean, there's all of that which we could go into. Problem is, a lot of it isn't verified, and people are going to go, well, that's rubbish. That's just gossip. I happen to think that what I've learned about that is true. I think I'm sure it's true. And there's many other things which the problem is people think it's conspiracy because they haven't got the proof on the telly. There is proof, but they haven't seen it on the telly, so they won't believe it. So you and I talking about that, it's just going to rattle people and make them think that we're a couple of nutters. So let's look at the things that we can see. Yeah. What we can see is that on the mainstream news now, our so-called Prime Minister went out the other day and said, oh yeah, umpteen people have died, but it's okay, you can still carry on taking it. Well, my argument is, not that I'm looking for an argument, but my argument is, if one person had died, just one, anybody should, with any sense of responsibility, should be saying, everybody stop taking it, because one person's died, and until we've investigated it, it's not worth taking the risk. But he's not saying that. They know that dozens of people have died. I think they're admitting up to 20 or something like that have died from the blood clot. And yet they're still saying, oh, go and take it. That tells you all you need to know. Because he's prepared, our leader is prepared to let you and I and our friends and our loved ones, the people we care for who are over the age of 30, take something that he knows can kill you. So that should be enough proof without anything else. So, and I think that's the thing that's woken a lot of people up in the last few days. I think people are going, well, hang on a minute. So that's going to continue. Every day, the news is contradicting itself. It's changing by 24 hours. It can do a U-turn. So people are now going, I'm not trusting this anymore, which is fantastic for the likes of you and I, because all it's going to do is sow the seed of more and more doubt, and all of the sort of stitching is starting to come unpicked on the big lie. So I reckon between now and the next time we talk, there's going to be even more things that are going to make people realize that they can't trust what they're being told.
Yeah. And my final thing, if I could have one final thing to finish on, is everyone, wherever you are in the world, take a good quality vitamin D, because, you know, most of us do not, and your body cannot be in a cytokine storm inflammatory state if your vitamin D levels are high enough. And eat loads of greens, because I don't care whether you think I'm a complete nut or anything, but that advice, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, eat loads of green vegetables as raw as possible and take vitamin D, and then enjoy your life, look at the lambs and go play.
Do you know what? I do think you're a complete nutter, but I like it.
Good. Yeah, takes one to know one, I always say. So I love it. I've never met so many. It's great. All us nutters are coming together. We're all finding each other now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it reminds me of that thing on Shrek. Do you remember that Shrek movie? It was about the third Shrek that they did, where all the good guys were all winning everything, and then the sort of the baddies were all going, well, what about people like us? And they all got together, all the bad people, and they became like a little family. And I think, well, that's true. That's what we're doing.
It was absolutely brilliant, that bit. And you ended up feeling really sorry for them, didn't you? You were not.
Yeah, the guy with one eye in the middle of his forehead, he had his little kid, and he gave her a kiss. Oh, my angel, he said, you know. It's right, though, isn't it?
It is right.
Those nutters have all got to stick together.
Yeah, completely. Well, have a fantastic day. We want lots of updates on the lambs and the horses. And we'll do this again in a couple of weeks. And if people have got questions,
will be here by then.
I keep meaning to work out how to do a live, but I haven't had a chance to look into that yet. So I need someone techie to help me with that. But yeah, if you've got any questions for us next time, feel free to message us and we'll include those as well.
Perfect. Everybody have a wonderful time. And thanks for listening. And thank you, Catherine. We'll see you again.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.